Well, we all watched on national television Dak Prescott going down with an ankle fracture and being out for the rest of the season. What is his prognosis, and much more on foot and ankle injuries on the next Jeff Crilley Show.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, if you were watching the Cowboys game a couple weeks ago, we all were horrified by the injury. You don't have to be a surgeon to understand that the foot's not supposed to bend that way. To talk about that now, Dr. Zach Barnett. He is with Texas Foot and Ankle Specialist. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, I saw it and I said, oh, that looks painful. You saw it. What did you think?
Well, I knew it would be a season-ending injury due to the nature that not only was it a dislocation, but it was through the skin. And that compound fracture definitely complicates things acutely for an athlete.
Well, we're going to spare the viewers. We're not going to show that. I was preparing for the show, and I said, you know what? It's seared into all of our memories. Mm-hmm. What do you think is his prognosis? Can he come back 100%?
Absolutely. I think excellent prognosis. Acutely, kind of more at the beginning, it's a little more difficult with an open fracture, so it means it came through the skin, so you have a little tighter protocol with infection control, etc. Does complicate it a little bit because bacteria loves hardware, and in his case, it was really, when you have a dislocation like that, you not only break the bones, but you damage the ligament structures which hold bone to bone, so that mobility and stability typically has to be repaired. And so, there's a little more difficulty when you deal with something that could have an infection.
So there's been a lot of talk about how prepared the Cowboys were, and for that matter, the rest of the NFL. There just wasn't a lot of prep for this season. I don't know that it would have made any difference in the case of Dak Prescott. Do you think it would have?
I don't think so. Now, a lot of the Cowboys' injuries really have a lot to do with lack of preparation and endurance, but typically a mechanism of injury like he had, it literally is positional, so the way someone steps, similar to an ACL, it only takes 15 pounds of force to tear an ACL in the knee, but it's based on, you do have tendons surrounding the ankle, so there may be some argument that you could maybe hold that ankle in place, but with the amount of force that goes through these hits, I don't think there was any way to prevent that, unfortunately.
Yes. Well, we should tell people that you're a 5th-generation Texan, which is really, really cool. In fact, your family name is named after the Barnett Shale.
Right.
So why did you get into medicine?
Well, I actually volunteered at a Susan G. Komen 3-a-day event in college, and actually was just working in the medical tent, and they would walk 20 miles a day, and people would have blisters and sprained ankles, etc. And I hadn't picked anything. I was still in college, and most of the ladies were just shocked that I was okay dealing with feet, messing with blisters and taping ankles, and I was just ready to help and do anything I could. And the most common thing that we saw during that event was foot injuries, and lo and behold, a week later, I got a letter after taking my MCAT to apply to Temple University in Philly. So that kind of started the path forward.
Well, you were telling me before we started the show that 200 million Americans have foot problems?
Yeah, over 2/3 of people in America have a foot problem of some sort throughout their life.
Why is that?
Well, because the foot, unlike the hand, is a weight-bearing structure. So the foot and the hand are very similar, but you've got dexterity in the hand where the foot is a load-bearing. So it does go through similar motions to, say, the arm, where you go through supination, pronation in your gait. But as you load the foot and walk, it puts stress on ligaments and tendons, and so you can have chronic type injuries just from overuse based on foot position, and something like DAC, more of a injury from, a fall, basically.
Sure. My wife loves her shoes, and she made a comment to me one time that if they're pretty, they have to hurt.
Yeah.
Do you see fashion injuries from high heel pain and stuff like that?
I do. I see a little of both, fashion injuries. I mean, one of the interesting things about the foot is there's so much of it that's genetic. So I have people that wear terrible shoes, or shoes that would be considered less supportive, and they never have a foot problem. Other people wear the most comfortable shoes, padded, and they still get foot problems. So, I'm a big avid cowboy boot wearer, and a lot of people are shocked at that because they wouldn't think that is supportive, yet they feel good. So typically I let someone wear whatever they want until they start having a bad foot problem, and then we might have to tweak it a little bit.
Let's talk about circulation, because I think we all know somebody who has circulation problems in their feet. Their feet are always cold. How do you know when it's a problem? How do you know when to go see a doctor?
Well, so there's two things. You've got the arteries and veins, that's moving circulation, and then you have nerves. And it's kind of two categories, the vasculature and then the nerves. So a lot of people that'll say their feet are cold, if they literally touch them and they're warm, then it's probably more to do with the nerves, because you think about a nerve. If you're cold, it's trying to tell your foot to, hey, get out of that cold structure. So as people age, they can, between back problems and other conditions like diabetes, actually get some nerve damage, and that can actually, and that's less concerning. Right. Because someone told me the other day their foot was on fire, and you touch it and it's a normal temperature. Now, when it actually is cold, and sometimes people get that purplish hue to it, that can actually be more concerning with arteries, etc. And those are times that you tend to want to get that checked.
I know a lot of women will complain that they have swollen ankles and they can't wear the shoes that they want to because they're just embarrassed about their feet.
Right.
What can be done for swollen ankles?
So swelling is usually either acute. So like you sprain your ankle, it swells. Your body stimulates blood flow to an area of injury. So maybe overuse. If you start working out a lot and your Achilles gets a little flared up, that will flare your ankle up. But generally it's associated with some sort of pain with it. And they can almost elicit, oh yeah, it hurt last week from doing a treadmill too long. Where other things that are typically non-painful, I did some research in undergraduate, and pretty much anyone after the age of 25 has some form of congestive heart failure. So what that means is the veins over time get damaged. And once they're damaged, you cannot reverse it. So a lot of that swelling actually has to do with the veins, which bring blood back to your heart.
Well, I was really impressed as I was doing my homework for this show. You have offices all over North Texas, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, name some of the cities.
Wiley, and we have Forney. We have Rowlett, Garland, we have Kaufman, and Mesquite.
And you have a beautiful staff. We're going to go ahead and put some pictures up. I want you to kind of walk us through here, because it looks like you have a fun team. That shot in particular, where is that taken?
That's at a lake in Forney, and it's just a big family.
Yeah.
They'll ask every question imaginable. They're actually, right now during this interview, all the staff is doing a Halloween kind of potluck at our one office. So cool. They get the afternoon off to kind of hang out and visit.
That's awesome. And, I know it's difficult to get the right combination of employees that just make magic. But the customer experience, your patient experience is greatly enhanced when you have a friendly team, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. How did you guys go about finding the right?
To me, it's all personality. I can train, same as I had a surgeon that was teaching me some of these complex surgeries I do, and he said, you can train a monkey, but you have to have someone receptive, willing to learn. We just hired a girl that had never been doing foot and ankle whatsoever, but she's very energetic, very just loves patients, and I think that's what matters to me, because you've got to have a side of compassion. I mean, I think that that can get lost a lot, because you've got a specialty and you're an expert at something, and you look at something and can just know right away. Usually within about 20 seconds I know what someone has, but it's that ability to let them speak and have the nurses that I have really talk to them, hear them out. That really makes the biggest difference to patients, I think.
How cool is it when you work with somebody who's been in pain for a while, maybe they've been nursing this injury forever, and then you give them relief? I mean, that must be so
That's
rewarding.
Probably the greatest gratitude. I actually did research at UT Southwestern before going into medicine, and that was the hardest part for me, is there really wasn't an end conclusion. And even some of the little things I do, it's great. I had a a couple of patients that had some terminal illnesses, but they came in simply for an ingrown toenail, and just relieving that within a day made their life. They were just so happy that so many times a foot problem can be so ailing, they have nothing else wrong, but their quality of life goes down. So in a lot of those cases, it's very simple to get someone completely better.
Well, so I know because the foot and ankle, I mean, that is the foundation of the house. If the foundation's not right, it can create other problems in the body, can't it?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things I stress, some of the most common things I see between Achilles injuries, plantar fasciitis, foot pains, are really generated from a tight calf. And that condition happens over time. And what I try and explain to people that even come in with hip and knee pain is if that calf muscle is too tight, you can't have a normal gait. And then you start compensating by rotating the hip and externally rotating things, and end up getting hip bursitis in knee. And they're focused on the hip, and they'll go to a doctor for the hip, and they just say everything's fine. All of a sudden you can help fix something down in the foot, and it takes the hip pain away. It's pretty amazing.
I know men are notorious for saying, oh no, I don't need to go see a doctor. I mean, do you get a lot of wives kind of dragging the husband in?
I do. And in a lot of cases, most of the time when I see someone, it's kind of finally they're going. I know for me, I don't want to see a doctor until it's absolutely necessary. And patients are really like, I should have come sooner, because they sometimes wait so long because they think they can fix it, and they almost expect something terrible, when in fact sometimes it could be something so simple, and they'll get out of pain within a day that they'd been dealing with for 6 months, but just that kind of trepidation of going to see a doctor.
Well, let's talk about the pandemic. And I know for a while there, all non-essential surgeries were kind of being put off. Did that affect your practice?
It affected the practice, but it more affected the patients, because there was a lot of stuff that I do that I will routinely do for people to kind of keep them going. I have friends in other professions that you put things off that end up, most of the time, things I see if caught early are easily treatable. And then when they become more chronic issues, it's a lot more difficult and more effort to get better. And so that really kind of dropped off during this. To where now I've got people coming in that it might have been a minor issue, and now it's becoming much more major, even just for the fact of having no surgeries and no clinic. It turned a simple problem into a more complex one.
Are you able to do Zoom consultations?
Absolutely.
Okay, and throughout the pandemic, you've been able to take advantage of that?
And I still try and do everything. Now we're fully open, and we follow every protocol to see people safely, but I still think there's no replacing seeing someone in person. Good news about foot and ankle is their face is a pretty good 6 feet away anyway, but in what I do, the most important thing really is me laying hands on those problems and seeing what's wrong. Talking through things sometimes isn't as good as me actually examining them.
Outstanding. Well, you've been a great guest. We're going to have you back again. We're going to put the website up so everybody can get in touch. beltlinefoothandankle.com is the website. And please get a hold of Dr. Zach for all of your questions. Thanks once again.
Thanks so much.
You bet. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.